Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Suzanne and Sarah Real Estate Investing Podcast. We are back with you this week because while it may look like winter outside in most places, in the real estate world, it still feels like spring, and spring is full of energy, lots of activity, and people ready to make moves. So we are seeing the good deals move really fast. In fact, a number of the places that we have slated to share in our weekly top picks email have already gone pending before we can even tell you about them. So that just goes to show that people are on the hunt and swooping those great deals. We're starting to see multiple offers again, and we also saw a lot of investor activity in February, so we expect that to continue, not quite to the same proportions, but as we get into the spring months, it gets busy, busy, busy in real estate, which is what we love and why we're hiring help. So today we'll talk to you about breaking down a little bit about what that means for you if you are a buyer, what that means for you if you are a seller, and how to navigate the busy hype of spring as an investor.
Love it. Here we go. So now we're going to talk about what we talk about every week, which is our market and business updates. What's happening in our specific world of Suzanne and Sarah real estate and the Bend market right now. We have new listings coming up for you in the next few weeks. I was at one of our Southeast Bend home listings coming on the market yesterday, getting the home energy score completed, which if you don't know, if you're listing a home within the city limits of Bend, a home energy score inspection is required before you list your homes. I got to meet the tenant yesterday and build rapport with her. Lots to be said about that. And just really getting my eyes on this property and around this property so I can fully absorb what's happening there and be prepared for listing photos and getting the listing up on the market at the end of next week to go active. Also, this past weekend, we listed a short-term rental condo down in Sun River, and we already have that under contract and potentially a backup offer coming. We've got lots of new investors reaching out to us this week who have some sort of connection to Bend, have been here before, and want to just really get their foot back in the door in this market and make sure that they continue to grow with this market and then also just take advantage of the lifestyle here. One reason why so many people like to come to Bend and invest here. We got an offer submitted for the least expensive home listed in Northwest Bend right now. And take it away, Suze. What else?
All right. So we're also helping some of our COVID buyers make lemonade out of lemons. We'll talk to you about some of the first clients who have come to us who have negative equity and how our creative approach is helping them come up with some solutions that could actually net them some money instead of them writing a check at closing. And finally, really interesting, we have so many investors in our network, and sometimes they find off-market deals that they don't necessarily want to keep themselves. So we are bringing people together so that our wholesalers and our flippers are connecting and everybody is winning in the process. It's super rewarding to do stuff like this. And I'm just going to say this right now. You do not get that with a typical real estate agent. So what Sarah and I do is above and beyond and so cool and fun and rewarding for everybody. So we love it.
We love our creative stuff.
Yeah.
Staying busy, you might ask or wonder how we keep it all together. Balancing our business growth and our personal life is not for the weak, right? Not for
the faint of heart.
Not for the faint of heart is what I'm trying to say, because both of these things are really important to us. And while we grow our business, we also have to keep our personal life in check as well. And so we're going to share with you guys a little bit today about how we focus in on that specific skill. So our key discussion points this week on that topic are going to be about hiring our new virtual assistant, who is, in this case, our new transaction coordinator. We're going to talk about why we chose them and how this affects our day-to-day work life and balance. We want to talk to you about why wholesalers bring us deals first, because we've built these relationships in the industry that lead to connecting people, right? And helping facilitate some of these more unique off-market deals. And finally, the power of trust in real estate. Buyers and sellers actually take our guidance because we have experience and we know how to communicate clearly, and why that makes all the difference.
Yes, so let's just dive into the first topic, which is hiring our new virtual but very real transaction coordinator. And what we can say about this is round 2 for our transaction coordinator. We had one that we hired in August of last year, and we were too nice. She was very skilled, super fast, dove right in. And we really valued that speed and efficiency. However, her reliability and attendance was lackluster. Just for example, we probably should have known on day 2 when she didn't show up, a no call, no show, as they say. And we were just like, whoa, day 1 was amazing. What happened? Where did she go? But that just set the tone almost for the rest of her time with us. And we were so busy that we didn't feel like we had time to start all over again and interview, and like put another job description out, interview, hire, train, blah, blah, blah. So we just let it ride until it just got to be too much. And many of the things that happened with that transaction coordinator that impacted her attendance were out of her control for that, but ultimately had to make the hard decision to cut ties and move on. So we, spent the last basically week posting, refining our job description, getting really clear on what is important to us, doing some initial interviews, and getting into our second interviews. And as we are recording this right now, we have our new transaction coordinator working in the background and doing a 3-day trial period for us at no cost to us. So we get to learn how he operates and how he prioritizes tasks. And we're just really excited to have more help, because our job is to, as we grow in our business, and as other business folks or realtors are listening to this, as you grow, you have to start delegating things. And that can be hard because usually you're faster at it than somebody else, right, Sarah? Like we could do the things that we just assigned to our new VA way faster. But the goal is to get them to be as fast or faster than we are, so that we're not focusing on MWAs, as my coach calls it, which are minimum wage activities. So we are focusing on the things that generate the sales funnel that's important to us. We're focusing on the things in our life that are important to us. And that's all about balancing business growth and our personal life. And we are keeping the business healthy so that we can continue to keep our VA busy and feeling successful as well.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about the pros and cons of hiring someone from the Philippines. And we can share a little bit about why we like to do this, and then also some of the considerations where there can be some negatives as well. And these are things we acknowledge in our hiring and interview process, but the pros for us outweigh the cons. And the pros are, I think, primarily that by hiring someone in the Philippines, we can afford as a business to have a full-time employee. This person can focus all of their time and energy on us versus hiring someone local who costs 2, 3, 4 times the amount per hour, who we could only potentially afford for a couple hours a week and wouldn't get the same level of service. Also, if you've ever met anyone from the Philippines, my general experience has been that they're extremely kind, warm, grateful, gracious humans. I'm obviously generalizing here, but this is my experience with the limited experience that I have. And it feels really good to be working with people who genuinely want to support you and your business, and who were making such a significant impact in their life and what their goals are. Because part of the way we lead is through teamwork. I actually told someone yesterday on an interview specifically, if we hire you, one rule specifically would be that you don't call me your boss, because we work in cooperation more than that. And I understand that's the hierarchy that they're used to, but that's just not how we operate. But those are really the biggest cons. It's for me, pros. For me, it's a feel good thing. We're able to provide, like, significantly provide for people, and it's mutually beneficial for everybody. I would say the biggest cons are the fact that it's not a super developed area, and they are, in terms of infrastructure, and they are susceptible to severe weather events like typhoons. And oftentimes our help from virtual assistants are unable to work because of internet connectivity issues or electric issues. So these are questions we ask in the interview process, how they are prepared to deal with those events in the event that they happen. Yeah, I would say those are probably the biggest cons. Can you think of any other cons?
Sometimes the language barrier can be a challenge, and that's a component of our interview process. It's important to us that they speak fluent English, and fluency can take a lot of shapes and sounds, right? So that's also part of our process, is just making sure that we all can communicate efficiently together. But I will say overall, our experience with everyone that we've interviewed and the VAs that we have hired has been really good and easy communication. So it is a win-win across the board, and we're excited to have some more help to keep our business growing and flowing.
Heck yeah. So why do wholesalers bring us the deals, Suzanne? What do you think?
Yes. So I talked about this briefly at the intro, and I think wholesalers come to us because they know we have a lot of buyers. They know that we are not only tapped into the investor community, we are the investor community. And if there's someone out there that's going to buy this deal off of a wholesaler, we probably know them and can help facilitate a conversation between people that may or may not know each other. Central Oregon is still a small place, but big enough that everyone doesn't know everybody. But we are this central hub of bringing together the key players in the investing space in Central Oregon. So it certainly feels a vote of confidence for us, which is fabulous. We love that. And we love helping people make deals together, and also being able to have that as a future in our pipeline as a future listing. So essentially, while we are not officially representing any party in this wholesaler to flipper transaction, we know that if it goes through, we will have the listing on the back end. So it's a great way for us to keep things rolling, and also knowing that the flippers trust us to give them solid advice about ARV, repair estimates, market timing, and all of that is really validating for what we do.
Yeah, no, it just speaks to, I think, our primary roles as connectors. And then, yeah, just also speaks to the next thing that we're going to talk about, which is, just the power of trust, right? So people know that we've got connections, and the people that we connect people with have been vetted, are legit, are experienced, and will actually follow through on what they say they're going to do. So for buyers and sellers who actually take our guidance, this matters, right? For two different reasons. I'm going to give you two examples from this week. One, like I said, we just submitted an offer for what's currently the least expensive home on the west side. These folks are not super experienced in purchasing real estate. They are definitely depending on our guidance from start to finish, explaining to them about how everything works in terms of offer and deadlines and contingencies. And the way we constructed this offer, their primary goal was to get it for a certain price, which is somewhat significantly lower than the current asking price. And part of that offer is them saying that they're going to use inspections for informational purposes only. And in this case, that makes sense for these folks because they actually come from a construction background, people who build homes, who have development. So they, in the process, are going to have experienced eyes that they trust, in addition to potentially a home inspector, on this home. But in exchange, the seller gets to feel like, wow, this is going to be an easy transaction because I know my buyers aren't going to ask me for any repairs. And so that's the seller's concession for potentially accepting a lower purchase price than they have it advertised for. Now, in terms of sellers taking our guidance, we've got a pretty big listing coming up in Redmond. It's 20 acres and a short-term rental home. And this is one we talked a little bit about last week, where we're taking on this listing, which was previously a stale listing, meaning it's been on the market for over 100 days and really just hadn't been done the justice that it needs to in terms of the property. And the seller is listening to me in terms of I'm outlining a number of things for them that they actually need to invest in, spend money on, in order to bring this property up to speed to sell for the price that they want to get, and also just really even get people through the door. And no one's ever told them to do this. And by these people listening to us and taking our guidance, we are helping them achieve their goals. We're first listening to what their goals are, we're helping them problem solve, and we're providing them with solutions. These are powerful things, and these are big decisions. It's a lot of money involved, but people feel safe with us and trust us and our opinions, and we have a lot of success.
Yes. And the guidance that we give is rooted in a lot of experience. So I think that's important. We're not just making this stuff up on the fly. We have a lot of past history to reflect on and include in our approach. And that's why our buyers and sellers are winning in any kind of market.
Okay, so now we're on to our client and industry PSA. We'll start with our industry one. We had a buyer's agent reach out to us yesterday about our condo listing that we just marked pending. She wanted to know if our sellers were accepting backup offers. I said, certainly, would love to have one. Here are some specifics that I know will need to be in this contract. Heard from her a little bit later, hey, if my buyer writes you an offer that's stronger than the offer that you have, meaning like a higher purchase price, potentially higher interest rate, because this is a seller carry financing deal, would your seller be open to bumping their current buyer and accepting my buyer's offer? And I was like, interesting. That's an interesting idea. My response was, I'm sure I could probably find a way that this particular buyer that we currently have is in breach of contract. Their contracts were not perfect. Their buyer's agent has not been fully showing up to do his job in terms of timelines and details. I don't think our sellers are going to want to play dirty. At this point, I think the only option is to submit an offer for a backup offer. And it really just got me thinking, because I also, I was also just curious with this question. Is there something that I didn't know about here? Is there something that I'm overlooking? But the PSA here is like, when your seller is under contract, they're under contract. They really have no way to get out of their contract unless the buyer is negligent and unless the buyer is in breach of contract in some way. And that's why I said, I'm sure if I tried hard enough, I could dig up a way and we could start this fight. But again, this is a small town. This is a small community. We just don't play dirty, basically, is the way that is. I appreciate the question. I truly do. And I appreciate the audacity of the question and the directness of the question. Keep those questions coming all day long. And we're here to represent our sellers to the best of our ability and get them the best price possible, but not when it comes to playing dirty.
Yes. And the reason that there's the potential of multiple offers on this condo is because our sellers took our guidance. And just like we were talking about earlier, we talk to them about the benefits of doing a wrap and selling their property on seller financing and leveraging the two assets that they have here. The first asset they have is the property itself. The second asset is their sub 3% interest mortgage on the property that gives them a way to wrap that, sell it at a higher interest rate. So they make money on the spread between their interest rate and what they're charging these new buyers. And that was the first line in our listing description, was the seller finance terms that were smoking deal for any buyer and got a lot of attention. And these first buyers they were on it. They were ready to go and they snagged the deal. So we are excited when our sellers take our advice and see the results of a smart strategy. So our client PSA is timely. So if you're watching this after March 21st, this is going to still apply, but be slightly less pressing. And that is that many of us as real estate investors have LLCs. We have registered businesses that are holding companies for our real estate investments. And there is somewhat new requirements to register your information, your beneficial ownership information with the federal government. This is new as of this year. It has gone back and forth in terms of whether it is legal, and ultimately where it stands today, we don't know if it'll change tomorrow, is that you have to register the beneficial information of all the owners of the LLC so the federal government knows who owns these LLCs. And this is really off-putting to a lot of investors because part of the reason we get LLCs is to have anonymity. And this totally takes away the whole anonymity piece of having real estate held in an LLC. So people do not like this generally. A lot of people were hoping that the new administration would kibosh this whole idea, but so far that is an unkept promise. And so we are still having to do this. And if you're just like, meh, like me, I haven't done it. I have like more than 10 LLCs that I have to do this for. I'm waiting until the last minute on purpose. But if you don't do it, they're charging $500 a day in fines. So they mean business. I think it's lame. A lot of people think that it's lame, and some people just don't care. What the government says is that it's all about reducing money laundering and terrorism, which are great goals. I don't know that this is really the way to accomplish that, but we'll play along.
Yeah, I don't want that $500 a day charge. No, thank you. So yeah, if for existing LLCs, the deadline's March 21st, 2025. And for new entities moving forward, you have 90 days to get this registration done. So there's the alert. Hopefully you won't get a bill in the mail.
And you can pay someone to do these things for you. If you have a registered agent who receives notices on your behalf for your LLC, that is another way to get this accomplished if you don't have the time or desire to do it yourself.
All right, we're on to our highs and lows of the week. Our win of the week, I think this is an easy one to call out, guys, right? We've got help. Heck yeah, we've called in more help, which is great. That just means that we're busy and hopefully we're doing it in a timely way before we get real crazy for the rest of the year. So we've hired our new VA from the Philippines, and we love this model for scaling, and we would highly recommend anybody who needs any kind of like administrative help, marketing help in their real estate business to definitely explore hiring someone as a virtual assistant.
100%. Challenge of the week. It's been a tough week for me. I've had a family emergency basically since our last podcast recording that we've been dealing with. It's been really emotional and draining and hard to stay focused and really give the same amount of attention to my work as I would when things are normal. So just appreciate having a team. And this is also why it's so important to have good communication, to have a business partner, to have someone who can pick up the pieces when we're falling apart.
What we're grateful for this week are creative sellers, people who are willing to listen on how offering alternatives that are maybe not conventional can actually be a benefit to them. A lot of people, when we start talking about things like creative financing, just put their earmuffs on or just give you the blank stare. But truly having people who are willing to listen has proven to make deals work as a win-win for all parties. So we are grateful for people who are willing to listen and learn. Our funny real estate moment of the week. Now, we are layering some more things on. What's new? We are helping a colleague launch a real estate newsletter for her property management business. We're doing a collaboration newsletter with her that's really just an educational based newsletter. And I had a little meeting with her yesterday to sync up on what needs to be refined before moving on. And I really had to help her break through the fear of just sending it out. She has been saying for the longest time, I want to do this, I want to do this. And we've put it all together for her on a silver platter. And she's scared. And I had to giggle at her and I had to call out like, hey, I really think you're overthinking this situation and how people are going to react to this. I see it as only a positive thing. We have to acknowledge that some things aren't for everybody, and that's always going to be the case. And really had to remind her that a 5% open rate on an email is a good thing. We're helping her work through that. And just, yeah, I just had to giggle at her pause, her hesitancy in sending out something that just is normal for us. We send out weekly newsletters, monthly newsletters. We do this all day long. And even just sending the first one for her is a challenge. Here, glad we can help her.
And I can totally relate to that. Maybe it's those of us who come from the corporate world. There's a lot on the line when you send those emails. You can't unsend them, and they can be tricky. And I think also for those of us who maybe suffer from perfectionism or we're in the process of overcoming that personality trait, this is a very clear sign of perfectionism and letting perfect get in the way of good enough. So
Yeah,
I've been there and I have persevered thanks to people like Sarah who are just like, what's the big deal? Just send it already.
no, I love it. You called it out. I do think it's a little bit of corporate trauma happening there.
Which, yes. All right. Hard lesson learned. We talked about this a little at the beginning. A lot of folks who bought during the COVID spike, which basically ended in August of 2023, are in negative equity positions. And if you want non-realtor speak for what that means, they're underwater. They owe more on the house than it's worth. And this is reminiscent of the housing crash days, that experience, but it's not happening on the same level that it did or for the same reasons that it did during the housing crash. So do not take this as our prediction for a housing crash because we do not see that coming. But there are a lot of people who overpaid when they just wanted to get in the market and things were bananas with tons of multiple offers over asking and appraisal waivers and all kinds of stuff. So we had buyers reach out about selling because their STR isn't performing the way they want it to. They're self-managing and they're just kind of over it. So we are using our creative skill set and our creative network to help them come up with some alternative solutions to essentially make lemonade out of lemons. They don't want to write a check to sell their house, but they certainly are fine making nothing on this investment, even though it hasn't even broken even for very many months of their ownership. So that's where we get creative and call in the folks that we know and the skills that we have to turn the situation around and give them some compelling options.
Totally. Speaking of people who don't want to lose money on their investments, I'm in that boat. And that brings us to our personal investing and portfolio updates for the week. And I woke up to a full price conventional offer in my email inbox this morning for the fourplex that I have listed for sale by owner in St. Louis. So pretty stoked on that. I reviewed that offer early this morning and did some rough math, and even paying the buyer's agent's commission of 3%, we are still looking at netting $14,000 on a $50,000 investment that we've had for a year and a half now. Does that take away from the stress, the gray hair, the headaches that have gone along with it over the past year and a half? No, but it does mean that if this sale does go through, that we're not going to be writing a check to somebody to sell a place that we want to get rid of. Pretty excited about that. Of course, the downside of selling a property conventionally, meaning just on market to a buyer who's represented, is that we have contingencies like the inspection contingency. So there will be a full inspection on this property and walkthroughs, and the buyer will get to decide during that time whether they want to purchase the property based on those findings. But it's fast close. They've got it listed, they've got it closing April 14th, and it's a pretty clean offer. So I'm super stoked to at least entertain it. And then we've also got a subject to offer in our back pocket if we want it as well. That one I'm not nearly as excited about. Really, the only thing we would walk away from that in the short term is a $15,000 check, as they have it offered. And then they're offering us over our asking price, but they're giving us a 7-year terms and 0% interest on our equity. So it's just a bleh offer that's not very exciting or beneficial to us, but something that I would potentially consider if I can. I've countered back on those terms a little bit, so to see if they'll entertain that in the background. Other than that, got some listing photos done for our Northeast Bend house yesterday, and I get to get that listed for rent on Zillow this week, and excited about that just because I've been in this mode where I'm like, no, you can't move that piece of furniture yet. It needs to be staged, so on and so forth. So happy to just be able to live in our house a little bit more and really start the moving process, which is happening next week to a third of a house. We've got 2 floors out of 3 totally torn up, and our family's moving into a 1-bedroom apartment on the main level. So it's going to be a fun transition.
Oh, I love that, Sarah, because it's fun. It's like a new experience. It can feel like camping or just having, like a different family experience together. And I think it'll be really fun.
I'm so stoked on it, Suzanne. Like, I'm definitely my own hype person in this. Like, but I've got to stay positive for everybody. Like, I'm like keeping the positive energy up, because Matthew's a lot more skeptical than I am, but he's had a positive attitude shift this week, I think. So we're doing good. It's hard not to feel good at that house, to be totally honest. It's a pretty magical place.
Yes. And we're moving into spring, even though I know there's snow on the ground. And so like you can be living outside more, right? Like the kids could be in a tent in the backyard, and so tons of options to make it fun and feel like an adventure instead of a dreaded experience.
Exactly. I've gotten in the river twice this past week, which is so fun, from my backyard.
Oh
so
my
good.
gosh. I know. So rad. My updates, everything's pretty steady on the investment properties. We did have a tenant. We're going to have a tenant turnover at one of our places in Three Rivers and Bend at the end of May, which is normal and fine. But really where I'm getting a lot more momentum and enjoying the process more is my private money lending. And I'm getting more lending requests than I can fund. So I have been really diligent in creating. I came up with a tracker of all the loans and requests and things that are coming in, and I'm evaluating based on my criteria and getting more selective about which deals I fund and what kind of returns I want. And when I look at the numbers overall right now, we're getting an annualized return of 25%. So yeah, not bad.
I just, like, Suzanne, I just cannot wait to jump on that train, just so you know. Give me till like October, and then I'm gonna be riding that train hard. So very excited. Can't wait to learn from you. All right, let's wrap this up. We know from this episode that spring energy is here early in this snowy Bend market. Our buyers, sellers, and investors are awake and ready to make moves. What do you need to know? You need to know if you are an agent in this market, you've got us here to help with guidance. We have a mentorship program here at our brokerage. Get in touch with us about that. Or if you're looking to buy or sell, this is the time to reach out because things are definitely moving faster than you think. Or if you want to learn more about investing in general, that's where you want to get connected with the Central Oregon Investor Network, and you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all of our channels for weekly insights
and monthly meetups where we talk about all kinds of real estate topics. And tomorrow's meeting is all about sharing my experience of kicking corporate and ditching the 9-to-5 so that I can have a life like this where I join you from the Baja camper and I get to play pickleball in the morning and show up on my podcast in my pickleball clothes, which is pretty darn cool.
It's not a bad life, that's for sure. So if you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review, DM us on Instagram. I'm at Best Life Ben, or Suzanne's at Suzanne Rose Moore, and let us know what topics you want to hear more about. And we'll see you on the next episode. Talk to you guys soon.